Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go.
First week of December 2025, last month of 2025. Interesting week we have ahead. As those who listen to me regularly, I always find things interesting. It's part of just the way I'm hardwired. I think we might as well go through life interested. When we're bored or asleep at the wheel or not paying attention or not participating, we're not really engaged in why we are here. And sometimes it takes a lot of soul searching or real hard work to find that fire, that desire, that raison d'être. I mean, what is it that, pardon my pronunciation of French, but what is it that drives us, that keeps us motivated, curious, and hopeful in a world that seems to be spinning out of control? And one thing we know energetically is that so much is changing now, and it really does demand more conscious attention to what we're doing here and why. One could call it just a strong imagination that makes human beings feel that we have some sort of intrinsic value, our imprint on the world, or it could simply be part of what keeps us moving in an environment that may at times seem chaotic, confusing, or a sense of out of control. And as I remind myself and my clients regularly, there is only one energetic source we really have control over, and that is ourselves. And when we move through life taking responsibility with an awareness of that reality, well, then we're in a stronger position to do things that have impact or resonance in a way that can affect overall what is happening here on the planet. Each of us has a spark, a component that affects who we encounter or how we move through the world. Every decision we make has an impact on how someone receives information and then what happens afterwards, their response, as is our response. And I certainly know I continue to be affected, astounded, impressed, and confused at how sometimes what I say or how I act in the world is received. And what's really important is to work or be who you are with, as I said, conscious awareness and as much integrity as you can muster. Because when we take responsibility for our individual lives, it actually has a positive impact on everything that happens around us. So with that little philosophical beginning, let me launch into December 1st. And December 1st begins with a moon in Aries. We are approaching the full moon midweek. And so this moon in Aries in the morning can give us a lot of fire. And the times I give are Eastern time. So depending where you live, you need to adjust the time zone. So this fire, this desire, this passion, especially for air and fire signs, people who have a lot of that elemental energy within them, can really have a push of what it is they want to do, accomplish, and make happen over, especially this week, as we're moving into that full moon. And so it's important to realize that the more aware we are of how we're moving through space and its consequences and how we're impacting others, back to what I said about what we say, what we do, the impact it has, and how people respond, the more conscious we are of that, the more directed the energy can be with almost a laser-like intensity. It can also be a morning where we address a lot of, well, things that need to be healed, perhaps within ourselves, people around us. The thing that's super important on this morning into early afternoon is that we don't dilute the focus too much. I mean, think about, as I said, light. I made a reference to laser, but think about light when it's diffused, when it's spread, when it's sort of softly touching a lot of things. Well, that can be good, or it can be not as impactful as when the light is shown directly on one avenue or focus or thing we want to accomplish. And so you decide. And as I said, there's a strong healing vibration on this morning. You decide where that light has the most effect or impact. Maybe it is better to spread it softly rather than have it be so intense that one feels like they're getting the third degree. You know, we want to use our passion, direction, focus in ways that whatever it is, whatever message we're trying to convey or action we're doing is received in a way that is helpful, not so intense that we blow somebody out of the water. And with the waxing moon cycle that we're still under and aiming towards that full moon, there can be a intensity in this week, a need to kind of make something happen. And remember, Mercury went direct over the weekend, so we're getting this momentum of things like, oh, I didn't get to that, and that didn't happen, and I've got to move this more efficiently. And so as we focus in ways that are more targeted, instead of thinking, I don't know if I have enough time, let me run to catch up. You don't want to run to catch up. You want to move in a direction that's consistent and, as I said earlier, has focus. So the moon goes void, of course, at 1:14 p.m. And this can be a kind of last ditch effort for some people to feel like, oh, I didn't hit that, or I need to make this happen, because there's a Jupiterian influence that, I mean, we often say Jupiter is the planet of beneficence and good fortune, but too much of a good thing is too much. So that intensity wants to be modified, directed, softened. And if you feel a buildup of, oh, I must have this happen now, then it might be advisable to pull back a little and taper things so that you're not bludgeoning or hitting with such intensity. And even as I'm saying this, I'm acutely aware of my own schedule, and I know that things I'm doing on Tuesday, I'm going to want to get things wrapped up before I'm in this situation or this cycle of, oh, I don't have time for. So we want to pace ourselves, make sure that we're not overwhelming what needs to happen. So once the moon goes void, of course, then we've got basically the whole afternoon, early evening before it enters the sign of Taurus. So when the moon is void, of course, basically what's happening is it's not making a geometric aspect to another planet or heavenly body. So we're not as emotionally attached to the outcome. So all that energy, Aries is fire, it's cardinal, it wants to move in certain directions. So it's a really good afternoon, early evening to be wrapping things up, clearing your desk, getting things organized, uh, spending energy in ways that is not uh, trying to move somebody into your way of thinking or create something new. Uh, because of the void, of course, usually creating something new or talking someone into something you want them to do doesn't have the compelling aspect it would, for instance, when that moon enters the sign of Taurus. Once it enters Taurus in the late evening into the next day, this is really good energy because what's happening is Taurus is what we call fixed earth. It's tenacious, it's steady. I mean, people can see the value in whatever it is you might be promoting or encouraging them to look at or do. So that's really useful when we want to encourage people to see our perspective or engage in something, especially anything that's therapeutic or healthy or wanting to do a creative project. That moon, as it moves through the sky, does engage in ways that shows a lot of potential for creative insight and inspiration and touching into things that have to do with, one could even say, the highest octave of love, because there's a Neptune picture. So it's really sweet for increasing Venusian vibration, that sense of how we connect, what we love, what makes us feel tender or fruitful or inspired, creative. It's a strong day for imagining or creating ideas about how to strengthen your financial foundation or what connects with people who will benefit one another and share ideas and collaborate. Very nice energy Tuesday and Wednesday with that moon in Taurus. It's it it, it has a real, the thing about Taurus is that, as I said, it's an earth sign. It's steady, tenacious, focused, but it's getting jazzed by outer planet energy that gives it this sense of, oh, I could do that, or that could happen. So it's this, sometimes Taurus can be too settled in to the way things are moving or what's going on or the comfort of the familiar. But this is also bringing in this sense of, I'm so comfortable I can stretch. And that's a lovely, lovely octave to be moving into with that resonance and sense of harmony that is really very sweet. So that's Tuesday and Wednesday. On Wednesday, the moon goes void, of course, at 8:50 p.m. Times I give her Eastern time, as I said. And then it moves into the sign of Gemini at 9:48 p.m. Now, once it moves into Gemini, this is very different energy than Taurus. It's air, it's what we call mutable, it tends to bounce around a lot. People who are not really comfortable with Gemini energy can find those who have strong Gemini energy very scattered. And certainly, we're all different, and depending on makeup, some Geminis certainly can be scattered. Oftentimes, though, they're more quickly adaptable to information than most human beings. I mean, they are the original multitaskers. They actually can do that. A lot of us think we can do that, but we're not really hardwired to move around in the same way that a Gemini can. But what it lends itself well to is that gleaning information and putting things together. The thing to be aware of over, well, it comes in late evening on Wednesday and then through Thursday, and that full moon is in the sign of Gemini. It hits exactly at 6:14 p.m. And the deal with this particular full moon is that it's super important to dig deeper into whatever information you think you have, because it's as though there's so much that may come at us, and it's seductive. It feels very real. And one could say, well, information is real. It's coming from a source. But the thing that's very important with this full moon energy is it's really asking us to employ wisdom and a sense of justice and perspective to whatever information flies in. And the particularly like pop-in days with this would certainly be somewhat on Thursday, but absolutely on Friday when we're in the waning cycle. Because what's going on is that some of us may feel challenged or confronted or working with information that's just not jiving or connecting with what the overall focus or intention is. Remember, Mercury is speeding up. It is direct now, but it is walking over, it's retracing steps of where it had retrograded. So when that occurs, a lot of times what's happening is we're going over, or we're addressing something that had been stalled, or we didn't have all the details to, or we weren't able to make perhaps the best decisions for how we were going to take action or what we were going to do, because we didn't have all the facts in front of us. And so it's a very valuable day to really go over anything. If you would put travel plans in, if you had pitched an idea, if you're looking at anything contractual, to revisit it before you sign the dotted line. Because yeah, astrologers say don't sign anything when Mercury's retrograde, or you want to go over everything and be aware. But then when it's direct, yes, you want to go over everything and be aware. Doesn't mean you just suddenly sign it without saying, "Hey, let's look at this again," or "Let's here's a piece that was bothering me." I mean, these are days when you want to tease out, especially if anything made you feel uncomfortable or you felt as though something was missing. And we may not be able to discern immediately what that is, but it is really helpful to start digging into it more. And here's when everything shifts. The moon goes void, of course, at 7:55 p.m. on Friday the 5th. And then once it enters the sign of Cancer at 8:54 p.m., we are in a delicious weekend for really exploring and understanding and going to great depth with connections and follow through and creative sources that were not necessarily available or not really coming through in the way we needed them to. Now, the piece here, of course, for people who are on a standard work week is that, yeah, this doesn't kick in until the weekend. And so, depending on your goals, your work, your situation, when you can pace yourself to be able to go over things on this particular weekend before we get into the following week, that can be helpful. If you can't do that because life happens, I actually was doing something earlier today, a volunteer thing I do, and it was taking longer than usual. And I basically said to the others, I said, well, Mercury station direct today because I'm doing this recording actually when Mercury did station direct over the weekend. And one woman said to me, well, why did you volunteer to do this today? And I said, because life happens. I mean, it was something that I had said I would do. It made it easier for someone else. I was aware Mercury was retrograde, and that's what happens. I mean, as I'm talking about this week and I'm looking at those days that are a little what I would call rockier, especially as we're cresting that full moon. I mean, it's really just Thursday into Friday. We just need to be more aware. And so, always, I mean, one of the values of astrology, of course, is that it gives us, well, the ancients would say forewarned is forearmed. But instead of thinking like everything is a battle that we're going into, which of course it can feel like sometimes, it's more when you know what you're dealing with energetically, it's easier to crest, cope, make decisions, volley, work with what you're presented with than if it kind of sideswipes you. So basically, what I'm saying here is when you are able to use a weekend like the weekend of late evening the 5th into Saturday, Sunday to make those connections and work deeply in ways that have to do with whatever you're trying to pull together creatively or in relationship or family or a home. I mean, this is one of the, I think, turning points. I know a lot of people are moving around, selling homes or creating changes in their lives, this can be a period of time when everything starts to fall into place. And there's this sense of, oh, okay. I mean, even if the sale doesn't come through or things don't seem as though they're starting yet, it's really super for just clarifying again what your goals are, what you want, envisioning the right buyer or the right home or the right familial situation, partner. It's water. So the moon in the sign of Cancer is about what is it that makes us feel as though we're nestled in our womb of life, this safe, sweet spot that is regenerative and allows us a sense of harbor. So give yourself that however you can. Go into, of course, I'm always talking about going into nature or take a bath or do something that allows you that sense of being immersed into something that cradles you. That is so rich on a weekend like this weekend because and when we're lucky enough, it's being with people who we truly enjoy and feel sheltered by being with, that they get us, that they hear us, that they're there for us. These are tremendously restorative things to do on a weekend like this weekend. And maybe it's just something um, incredibly sweet that gives you that sense of always feeling loved. And many of us have to, work on healing those pieces where we we feel as though we are good enough. We are deserved. And this is a wonderful weekend for really changing those tapes in your head. And some of us, we have to do our maintenance now and again. We maybe have been through all kinds of therapy and self-awareness and healing journeys. And yes, I'm talking about my own life, of course. But it doesn't mean that we don't need a reboot, a reminder. Let's get under the hood and see what needs a little work now. It's really important to give yourself a weekend or even an hour, 15 minutes, if that's all you can find, to make those loving connections to self. Late evening Friday through 8:45 p.m. on Sunday is wonderful energetically for really reminding yourself what it is you want to do, what it is you deserve to do, and to be open to how you might receive that anyway. Something constructed that you can't even imagine. Just imagine that you are a child of light and it is possible. So as of Sunday evening, the moon enters Leo at 9:48 p.m. So, it's about, would of course, an hour. And that is, again, very different than that sweet, soft Cancerian moon that just wanted us to hug ourselves or ask for hugs. In Leo, it's fiery, it's dynamic, and it may very well want to move on and make sudden things happen. So I suggest that if you can kind of wind down in the evening and allow yourself a a restorative evening, that's a really good way to enter into the next week. Or the other thing is put on your glad clothes and go out and dance, hear music, do things that make you feel like you want to just play. That's another way, especially somebody who feels very connected to fire, air energy might want to burn off and enter into the week energized and with a sense of potential and excitement.
You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends, and if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.